On a June night in Barrie, Ontario in 2023, a young woman would meet up with a new friend to grab drinks. Hours later, she'd be spotted on surveillance footage carrying a set of skis and would never be seen again. According to the friend she was with, he turned around and she essentially vanished. But it would turn out that there was a lot more to this very complex and mysterious case than anyone would know.
Still no answers.
9 years ago today,
What happened to these two young children?
remains a mystery.
Urgent story unfolding right now. Who is missing? An unsolved murder.
Autumn Shaganash was born on September 19th of 1996 to her parents, Farron and Esther, in Northern Ontario, with an older sister named Lily and a younger brother. Her family is from the Constance Lake First Nations, but would move to Timmins, Ontario when the kids were young. Like many Indigenous youth, Autumn experienced hardship growing up, but leaned on her sister and cousin Kimberly as they had each other for support. After high school, Lily would move to Barrie, Ontario, and Autumn followed her there for around a year. Autumn didn't finish high school, and around 16, she had her first boyfriend, who turned out to not be a good guy, but she felt stuck with him and thought she loved him. For a few months, Autumn would go back north, but return to Barrie, feeling like it was a better lifestyle. Autumn would be only 26 years old when she disappeared from Barrie, Ontario, a city an hour north of Toronto. She lived there with her sister, Lily Ann Moore, and her two nieces, who she absolutely adored. Autumn was said to be like a second mother to her nieces, caring for them while Lily worked. Lily saying, quote, "She loved them very much, and she would never run away from us. She was always in contact with family, and if she went out, she would text us." End quote. Autumn is remembered as sweet, funny, and shy. She was always making those around her laugh. She was the glue who held them all together and would call her grandmother every day to chat. She's also a very trusting person and seen the best in others, even if they may not have the best intentions for her. From listening to her family speak, she is incredibly loved and is strongly missed. The number one thing her family also wants people to understand is that Autumn is a person. She is a sister, a daughter, a cousin, and a friend. The people she was surrounding herself with, some of the decisions she was making, may not have been the best, but at the end of the day, she deserves to be found just as much as any other person, and they don't want those choices and circumstances to affect her case. And that is something that I 1000% agree with. That is something that I preach on this channel every single week. That it shouldn't matter if someone was living a more high-risk lifestyle or making bad choices. To me, that should mean that authorities should be searching harder, because that means that the person was at a greater risk for something bad happening. And that also means that the public should continue to spread the word on cases like this even harder, so that hopefully it either spooks the individuals who may have been involved, or it may land on those with answers. So before we jump into this case further, I'm saying it now. Please send nothing but love to Autumn's family, and please do not judge Autumn for the details we are going to be speaking about today. She was a young woman who was working towards and would have still had the opportunity to have an amazing life and to make those changes that were necessary. But that opportunity was ripped away from her for some unknown reason, and those are the answers that we're still seeking. I've actually been working with and speaking to Autumn's cousin Kimberly over a year now regarding her case. I originally seen Autumn's case because her flyers were plastered all over Toronto, and I would walk by them on my way to work, and then eventually we even put her flyer in the window at my work. Yet it just passed the 2-year anniversary and Autumn is still not found, which is why I'm sitting here today and we're going to be doing a deep dive on her case, because there is a lot more information that anyone even knew, considering the first video I made on this case was only a few minutes long. Kimberly also decided to record some videos speaking about Autumn, so I'm going to play some of those now. Please be nothing but kind towards her in the comments, because she has spent the last 2 years advocating for her cousin.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Moore, and I am Autumn's older cousin. I just wanted to mention a few things to the public because a lot of stuff is not out there right now. I'm really thankful that you know, that she's making these videos to raise awareness for Autumn, and I just want to thank her for that, for doing that for us, because she is getting a lot of, you know, a lot of the information out there, and she's asking like these questions that make me even like ask like, you know, what did happen. So I really just want to say thank you for that. There, you know, there's always that one person, you never see them mad, they're always happy no matter what they're going through. Like, it's only like, if just say like odd times where she'd be sad, she'd be talking to me about it, but she was always happy, always making everybody laugh. You know, she was the glue of the family. She brought people together. She was the one who called all of us. Like, she'd always FaceTime me. She'd always call all her cousins. She'd call her grandma. Like, she was always reaching out to be close with her family. And she loved her family so much. Like, she was a family girl. And she's just the sweetest person. She, like, the way she cared for her nieces and nephews, like the way she cared for her whole family. You know, she always was making me laugh. It's the one thing about Autumn, and anybody that knows her knows how funny she is. Like, just the humor, it just comes naturally to her. You know, she could just say something not even meaning to like make people laugh, and just like them, like she would make me laugh until the point where I'd be crying. Like, she was so funny. She can never be serious. That's the one thing I noticed about her. Like, just like small inside jokes, right? I remember one time I was FaceTiming her. We were FaceTiming and we were talking about something, and then she was saying, "Oh my god, like what did I just say?" And like she just like forgot what she said like the 2 seconds ago. And then sure enough, like the same thing happened to me like a minute later. I was like, "Wait, what did I just say?" Like, I don't know what it was, but it was just so funny. So we started calling each other Dory, like, you know, the fish that forgets, like that just forgets what she said a minute ago. So yeah, that's our nicknames for each other, is Dory. And I miss her every single day. Like, I think about her every single day. And it's not fair. And it, you know, it's just like overwhelming when you think about it, because like she's one of so many girls that go missing and don't get found. So many. You don't think about it until it happens to you or your family or your friends. But I just miss her so much, and like her grandma misses her so much too. You know, her grandma, our grandma, she carries a little photo of Autumn when she was like young. She's so missed. Her nieces ask for her. Her nieces ask, you know, "When's Auntie coming back? When's Auntie coming back?" They have dreams of her, like that she comes back home, and they're starting to know that something happened to her because they were asking their mom. And there was one time where they asked, like, what happened to Auntie? Like, I don't know if they somehow they know what, like that she's gone and she's missing, but they were asking, you know, what happened to her. And like, it's just like, to not, they're so young, they don't understand, right? Our grandma, she's always holding a little picture, like a little picture of when Autumn was young, always with her in her wallet, in her pocket, and she carries it everywhere. And you'll just see, like, you just see my grandma, like when you talk to her, and she prays all the time that she can have dreams of her, and she's very spiritual, and she thinks about Autumn 24/7. She's getting older, and she's like, it's deteriorating her, you know, her mind and her body and her soul, and she just wants her granddaughter back. And
Now, as we often see in some of these cases, Autumn was struggling with both her mental health as well as an alcohol addiction that is thought to have began sometime around that first relationship that she had. But she was also taking medication for depression and anxiety, which a lot of people in our generation definitely struggle with both those things. It's not something out of the ordinary. The family has also spent a lot of time pressing as well that Autumn was not addicted to drugs. She wasn't an active drug user. She really seemed to be sad and just off track in life, surrounding herself with the wrong individuals and struggling with an alcohol addiction. It's not an easy combination. This issue would increase when she went back up north, but Autumn really liked being in Barrie because it kept her away from that scene, and it kept her busy despite her struggle. She still had dreams to be a flight attendant and began working towards her schooling and was attending AA meetings. She was trying to better her life. But things would take a turn on June 9th, and this is where the mystery really begins. During this time, Autumn was going through another rough patch after her and her boyfriend of 4 months, whose name was Brandon, broke up after she found out that he was cheating on her. We'll speak a bit more about that later. Lily also mentions that Autumn was working with her doctor to get her antidepressant medication dosage lowered, but noted that if she didn't take them, her depression would start. At the time of her disappearance, she hadn't taken her meds in a couple of days, on top of everything else that was going on in her life. That day, Autumn had told Lily that she was going to go hang out with a friend, and was captured on surveillance video leaving their residence on foot near Burton Avenue in Franks Way. She left with $40 in cash and her cell phone. At 8:53 p.m., Autumn was then captured again by CCTV from the Petro-Canada gas station, which captured her crossing the street to meet up with said friend. Now, the identity of this friend has been questioned since Autumn went missing, from everyone from podcasters to the comment section asking who was this friend. And it really made me wonder, why hadn't they identified this person sooner or quicker? Well, it turns out that they did know who this individual was, and they knew pretty quickly on in the investigation. This friend would turn out to be a man named Shawn Pawis, who was also a member of the Indigenous community that she'd met only about a week or so prior at the Barrie Native Friendship Center, which is a meeting place for those in the community, and it offers culturally based programs, services, and teachings. Autumn attended the center every Thursday. Now, it's alleged when they met at the center, Shawn was there for a grief meeting, and Autumn was there for an alcohol program. They would end up running into each other, and Autumn had asked Shawn for a cigarette. Shawn would then make a comment to Autumn about how beautiful she was and ask for her phone number. So clearly this was a very new person in Autumn's life, not an old friend. And I did some digging of my own into who Shawn was, and as you can see, he has at least 10 or so different Facebook accounts for some reason. It seems he worked in the tree trimming service industry. He would also later admit on camera to having a sort of cocaine addiction in the past. And at the time, he also had a toddler who he didn't have custody on and was currently trying to get his parental rights restored.
Yeah. And I had a little bit of a problem with coke and that before he was born, but not really I was never an everyday user, but I just I found myself growing up around kind of in the background. And then once I had my son, right, his mom kind of hasn't been around since September. I just said, enough's got to be enough for me, right? I gotta.
Oh, I know, and she doesn't come off as...
At the time of that investigation, he also had 6 separate criminal court cases pending around the beginning of March 2024. The reasoning for these was unknown. I couldn't, and I'm pretty sure the PI at the time also couldn't figure out what these exactly were for, and there needed to be further digging done to get that information. Now, according to Shawn's story, after they met up on Burton Street, which was across from the Petro-Canada gas station where they were caught on camera, they walked 40 minutes to a restaurant called Kensington Burger Bar, which is located on Dunlop Street East in downtown Barrie. While at the bar, they ate spinach dip and had a couple of drinks. Around 10:30 p.m., while still at the bar, Autumn was actually texting another man via Facebook Messenger, and his name is Taylor Calderon. Now, I feel it's important to talk about Taylor because he does play a large part in communicating with Autumn in the hours before she goes missing. Because, as we will learn, he was in constant contact with her via Facebook Messenger all the way up, essentially, until the point where she disappeared. Autumn and Taylor had actually started texting around June 8th, when Autumn would message Taylor saying hello. But the real conversation started on June 9th. At 7:05 a.m., Taylor asks, "You getting drunk with me tonight?" Autumn replies, "Sure." Taylor says, "For sure though?" And Autumn says, "Yeah." Taylor says, "Okay, can't wait." And Autumn replies, "Me too." And Taylor says, "Gonna be fun." At 8:45 a.m., Taylor then messages Autumn again, saying, "I got a Ciroc bottle for you to try." At 10:58 a.m., Autumn asks, "Around what time you thinking?" Taylor says, after 9, and Autumn agrees that's okay. At 12:40 p.m., Taylor asks, "What are you gonna wear tonight?" And Autumn says, "Not sure." At 2:51 p.m., Taylor asks, "How's your day going so far?" And Autumn replies, "Okay, yours?" Taylor says, "Not bad, just wanting to leave work. What are you doing?" Autumn says she's in bed. At 6:50 p.m., Taylor sends tongue out emojis, and Autumn asks, "What are you doing? You done work now?" Taylor says, "Just got home, what's up?" He then says he just showered and asks Autumn what she's doing, and she says she's drinking coffee. By 10:13 p.m., Taylor again messages Autumn asking what she's doing. This is when she tells Taylor she's at a bar and asks, "How about you?" So as you can see, she spent the entire day on June 9th texting with Taylor planning on hanging out with him, but then for some reason, she instead decides to go out with Shawn. And so this is when Taylor began to pry, asking, "The one by your house? Date night, LOL?" Autumn says, "No, LOL, I'm downtown." Taylor asks, "Who with?" Autumn says, "My friend, LOL, got invited out, so I'm like, okay, I'll come out." Taylor says, "Okay, have fun, maybe later on. We can see each other if you're not busy all night." Autumn sends an okay emoji. By 11 p.m. that night, Autumn texts Lily saying she was going to be staying out later than expected and that she'd be back home in the morning. However, Autumn would never return home. According to Shawn, him and Autumn then walked another 40 minutes back to his house on Scott Crescent. Autumn then messaged Taylor sometime again around this point, saying that she's done at the bar and asks him to come get her. Taylor responds by saying, "I can, just not yet." Autumn then seems to go back on their earlier conversation saying, "When? Like we had a plan." Taylor says, "Won't your date get mad?" And Autumn says, "What do you mean? I don't have no damn date." Taylor says, "Give me like 30 minutes. To which Autumn says, "I'm just worried my sister will kick me out." And Taylor says, "Well, maybe you should go home then." And Autumn says, "LOL, soon." However, it seems like Taylor would never go and pick Autumn up that night, despite saying he would in half an hour. It's also noted that Autumn felt like she may get kicked out, and that is because she was worried about money. She didn't seemingly have a job at that point in time, and she was out doing things she maybe shouldn't have been doing. She was staying out all night, she was drinking, things that her sister didn't condone. We also have to remember she was not taking her meds at this point, so she may not have been in the best headspace on top of all of that. But what I will say is Autumn and Taylor's conversation is honestly just very strange, how they go back and forth for seemingly 24 hours about how he's going to go pick her up and how they're going to meet up and hang out, but then they never do. Between 2:31 a.m. and 3:20 a.m., which is now June 10th, Taylor and Autumn exchanged multiple more text messages concerning them hooking up. I have read these text messages. It's something the family doesn't want out there, and I completely respect that. I don't think it's needed in this case to read text messages like that. But to sum them up, Taylor is still confused on how to pick Autumn up during these conversations because Autumn is just not telling him where she is. Autumn then tries to call Taylor around 3:20 a.m., but he doesn't answer. Instead, the conversation continues, and he continues talking to her about, wanting to hook up and meet up, but he doesn't answer the phone call for some reason. At 3:57 a.m., Autumn texts another guy named Kyle. He is noted to possibly be an ex-boyfriend. She was texting Kyle as well, asking him to come pick her up. And police say they were discussing plans for her in Toronto. Now, Toronto is going to be brought up a lot in this case. I do want to specify, though, there are two different Torontos. It's thought that it's most likely the city of Toronto, but I think it's important to note that there is also a Toronto street in downtown Barrie that is known to not be a very good area. So it is unclear which Toronto is specifically being spoken about, but in most contexts, it's thought that it's actually Toronto, the city. And this would make sense because Kyle actually lives in Mississauga, which is a city next to Toronto, about an hour's drive away as well from Barrie. But that night, Kyle had also been drinking, so he couldn't come and pick Autumn up. But as we will also learn, there's going to be a lot of conversation as well brought up around Autumn trying to make money in certain ways that aren't generally acceptable. And I want to press now, Autumn's family had no clue that she was thinking about doing stuff like this, that she was talking about doing things like this, and it was a very big shock to them. And it's still something that's really hard to talk about because it's something that can cause people to look down on someone still nowadays, especially when it comes to a missing persons case. It's something that can cause these cases to not get as much attention, which I think is absolutely awful. And that is why I'm continuing to try to speak about cases like this. But that's something that I have spent so long advocating for on this channel, that we shouldn't be avoiding these cases and we shouldn't be not talking about these cases, because then we're kind of just proving it all right. And I think we need to look at the mitigating circumstances here. She seemed desperate to make money. She also was under the influence, and she also hadn't been taking her medication, meaning she was probably not in the best mental state. And I say that Autumn was under the influence because during this time period between Autumn getting to Shawn's house with him and her texting Taylor through the night, Shawn says they drank 2 bottles of wine. Shawn also admitted to doing Molly that night, but said that Autumn only drank alcohol. Shawn claims they were up most of the night talking as well, and he described Autumn as being sad and said she told him about her ex-boyfriend Matt, who had abused her. According to family, this was an ex-boyfriend she dated 4 years prior.
Something to eat, and then she seemed to cheer up a bit, and like we spent the rest of the night talking and like whatever.
But when she was talking like that in the morning, so she was intoxicated in the morning still?
Yeah, like, well, we were drinking wine, too.
Yeah.
At my house.
During the night,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, but, like, it seemed weird because, like...
Did you guys sleep at all? Like
a little bit, but not really, but, like, it just seemed like she drank, like, half the bottle, but, like, she was definitely, like, maybe, I just thought, not, like, as, like... like, you know, alcohol maybe hit harder.
It
like,
definitely does.
Because, like, I mean, we only had 2 bottles of wine and 2
she's very
drinks at the
sensitive to alcohol.
Yeah, and like I had a buzz, but I said, "Go, come on, like have something to eat. It's good." I said, even have a bite, get something in your stomach. She said, "No, I don't really eat when I drink."
Yeah.
I said, "I could see that, like if you already started, but like I said, you should have something, but like whatever." She said no, so I didn't really force the issue.
At 4:30 a.m., Autumn would post a photo to her Snapchat saying that she hadn't gone to sleep yet and was drinking all night. At some point that night, Autumn also captured and saved a video to her Snapchat, and what is described in this video is that you can see Shawn holding her legs and you can see the side of Shawn's face in the video, which is how he would later be identified. At 4:44 a.m., Taylor once again messages Autumn asking, "What are you doing?" Autumn then replies saying, "Want to get me?" and Taylor asks, "Where?" Autumn says, "I don't know now, lol. Okay, well, where the circo?" At 6:21 a.m., Taylor messages Autumn again, telling her he's horny. At 6:45 a.m., "Okay, sorry." At 7:21 a.m., "What are you doing?" At 8:02 a.m., "Come over." Autumn doesn't respond this entire time. Sometime that early morning, Autumn also spoke to her father Farron on the phone, and he did not report noticing anything out of the ordinary when speaking to his daughter. But as you can see from the timestamps, Autumn and Shawn didn't sleep very much at all that night. Around 8:30 to 9 a.m., Shawn claims to have noticed Autumn speaking on the phone to an unnamed individual, and this conversation lasted about an hour. Autumn's phone records would show an incoming call at 8:34 a.m. from an unknown caller. To this day, that caller has still never been identified. Although the Barrie Major Crimes Unit has said that that call was placed from her phone number to her phone number, which basically indicates it was possibly made by an app of some sort, like WhatsApp or Snapchat or maybe a Facebook Messenger call. Now, I think it's also interesting to note that when police would later speak to Taylor, he mentioned that him and Autumn would always speak via Facebook Messenger, and they would always call each other using Facebook Messenger. And it seems like Autumn talked to a lot of her male friends that way. So it does line up and make sense that the phone call might have been placed from some sort of app that no one has access to, or we just can't figure it out, seemingly. And that is why it's showing up like that. But that also means that it could really have been anyone. However, what is very interesting is that according to Shawn, while he was overhearing this conversation Autumn was having with this unknown individual, she was talking about wanting to get picked up. And he also claims that Autumn talked about wanting to be taken to Toronto to make money either by selling drugs or by selling her body. But we also have to remember this information is coming from Shawn, who we will grow to learn has multiple different stories and may not be telling the full truth at all times. What is weird about that period of time that morning is that at 8:35 a.m., Autumn messages Taylor again saying, "Come get me." And Taylor again tells Autumn he doesn't know where she is. At 9:08 a.m., he says, "You home? Guess let me know." Eventually, Autumn responds with, "Hey." And then Taylor goes on to send another procession of messages saying, "Hey, what are you doing? Come over, let's cuddle. Okay, hey, what are you doing?" And then there's a deleted message. Autumn eventually says, "Hey, fuck, I've been up all night drinking, man." And Taylor asks for the umpteenth time, "Where are you?" and Autumn finally says 1 second. At some point on June 10th, Shawn also posted a long Facebook post about his son's first birthday with an expression of feeling happy. Shortly after all of this, at 9:30 a.m. to 9:45 a.m., Autumn sends Lily a text message saying she wanted to be picked up. However, Lily didn't answer. 3 minutes later, Lily noticed that notification and attempted to respond to the text message, but it wouldn't deliver, which could mean a number of things, such as Autumn's phone had possibly died or lost signal, or Lily was blocked, or it had been turned off or in do not disturb mode. But some of those things don't make sense, because why would you send a message to someone and then immediately turn your phone off? I can't understand her phone dying, but this now meant that Autumn wanted to be picked up, but she hadn't told Lily where she was. But Lily wasn't overly concerned at this point. She also just thought that Autumn's phone most likely died, she'd charge it, and then eventually get back to her with a location. However, that would be the last text message that Autumn would ever send her sister. And what's extremely odd about this is that Autumn's phone wasn't dead. Or at least she was still somehow able to message people. Because at 9:52, Autumn sent Taylor another text message. The text message reading, Scott Crescent. But it didn't give him a street number. So how is she still sending text messages if Lily wasn't able to contact her? That is a really big part of the mystery of all of this. And it wasn't just the word Scott Crescent that was left. Their conversation would continue after this. And it continued by Taylor asking, would he get mad if you came over? Autumn asks who, and Taylor says, the guy's house you're at. This is when Autumn agrees to meet with Taylor, saying, but it's got to be this afternoon. Taylor then asks Autumn if she slept with Shawn. Autumn ignores that question, but says she has to be home soon. Keep that in mind. She said she needed to be home soon. Taylor then asks when she needs to be home by, and he said, I don't know, I haven't went home yet, and continues to tell Taylor to come and get her. Taylor then says, I'm home alone after 12 p.m. So Autumn then says, okay, well, how's the evening? Taylor says, sure, in my car we can. If not, I'll message you when I'm home alone in case you can come. And that is the last message that Autumn will send Taylor. Right after having this conversation with Taylor at 10 a.m., Autumn and Shawn would leave his home on Scott Crescent and would be captured a block away from his home at 10:03 a.m., walking down Shelley Lane towards Ann Street. Now, this is the exact spot on Shelley Lane where the video captured them walking. Their destination was thought to be that they were heading downtown to Barrie's Lakeshore for the air show that day. And as you can see from the footage, it shows Shawn walking quite a bit ahead of Autumn, and they're both carrying a ski that goes to a set. It also appears that Autumn has her phone in her hand. According to what Shawn would later tell the family, he'd found the skis on the road while him and Autumn were walking back to his house after the bar, so he took them thinking they were good quality. However, in the morning, he realized they weren't so great, so he got rid of them. Shawn would also later tell police during a walkabout in the area that he and Autumn tossed the skis in a wooded area at the end of Shelley Lane, which I'd assume is this area here, as you can see on the maps. It is unclear and is unnoted if police ever did check that wooded area for the skis.
Yeah, no, when we were coming back Friday night, I found those in front of somebody's house. I thought, oh, those are good skis. And then I got them to the house and I thought, these things are crap.
Okay.
They just look good at the time. I don't know. I grabbed stuff off the side of the road.
So where were you guys planning to bring them?
Where was I bringing them? I brought them to my house.
I mean, when you guys left, because you guys left with them.
You left Saturday, June 10th morning at 10.
Yeah.
And where were you bringing them?
Oh, I didn't really have a plan. I just left them at the side here by the ravine here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I left them. Because I brought them home and then I thought, these things are crap. They ain't working. Yeah. I just thought I had a good find and then realized I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now from there, I'd always been under the impression that they walked south on Ann Street to Letitia Street and then proceeded south down Sunnydale Road towards the downtown Barrie area for the air show. That would be the path that made the most sense. Or they could have caught a bus right by the bushes where they allegedly threw the skis on Ann Street that would take them towards the downtown area even faster. And I was also really confused when the narrative's always been that Autumn went missing or would go missing from this area of Sunnydale Park, because they shouldn't have truly passed by the park, or at least a major part of the park, if they were going to be heading downtown, or at least heading downtown from Shawn's home. But we now have information that they didn't follow that path at all. According to what Shawn would later tell police during his walkabout, him and Autumn had actually proceeded north on Ann Street because they were heading to buy drugs from his dealer, who we normally met in the area of Glendale Road at Cundall's Road. But after this, his story is seemingly fuzzy. Now, in the police documents, it specifically states Glendale Road. I don't know if this is Shawn told the police the wrong road, or if the authorities wrote down the wrong road and it's just a clerical error or like a memory area on the authorities' part. But Glendale Road does not exist in Barrie. If you go on Google Maps, you can't find it. However, when I went and looked in a general area of where they were supposed to have met this alleged drug dealer, there is a Glenwood Drive that intersects with Cundall's Road. So could it have been this area that they were walking towards? Either way, as I just said, Shawn's stories are extremely fuzzy and they are going to be ever-changing, you will learn. Because Shawn claims that at some point during this walk north towards his drug dealer's home, they decided not to go and get drugs. So he can't recall if they had decided to turn off Ann Street at the École Nouvelle Alliance School and walked through the schoolyard into the bushed area to cut across to Sunnydale, or if they had continued north to Cundall's Road and then went a roundabout way to Sunnydale Road. Keep in mind, the authorities didn't do this walkabout until about a month or so after Autumn disappeared. But also keep in mind that Shawn knew for weeks at that point, when he did the walkabout, that Autumn had disappeared and he was the last one with her. So you'd think you'd remember a very important detail, such as which direction you walked that day, whether it was cutting through a school parking lot, and through a wooded area. And then I also think there's a cemetery there, if I'm correct, and then walking through down the street by the park. Or if you went all the way around past where your drug dealer lived and went way out of your way to then just go south again. You'd think you'd remember that detail. That seems like a pretty big one. It's not like you didn't remember a specific street you may have turned down when there was 10 different streets that all kind of looked the same in a suburb. And it does seem like I was correct about the cemetery, because as you can see, if they'd walked through the schoolyard, they would have most likely walked through the cemetery to cut across to Sunnydale. It was also brought to my attention that there is a second path on the left side of the school field. As you can see, it goes through this dense patch of forest, meaning you wouldn't really have to go through the cemetery at all. It looks quite secluded, and eventually it leads out to Sunnydale Road. Again, you'd think that moment would be etched in his memory, since it would be quite traumatic that someone would go missing and you were the last one to see them. Again, those are two completely different paths. But it does make me wonder, was it a combination of lack of sleep, drugs, and alcohol that could have been making his memory fuzzy? Or is he hiding something? Because their walk didn't end there. Because according to Shawn, even though he can't remember how, they eventually made it to Sunnydale Road, where they began walking south past Sunnydale Park. Shawn then claims him and Autumn noticed that there was a large amount of people at the park that day, and they had some conversation back and forth whether it was the annual powwow. However, they then learned it was actually an ALS fundraiser. Then, from Shawn's own mouth in a later video recording, he stated, quote, "We were walking down Sunnydale. I walk fast, and then after we walked past Sunnydale, I kept walking. Then I noticed she was way behind me, and then I was like, okay, and then there were these clothes on the side of the road that people were giving away." End quote. It was around the area of 113 to 119 Sunnydale Road that Shawn claims he spotted a bag of jeans at the end of a driveway, so he decided to look through the bag of jeans for his size. He claims to have looked through this bag of jeans for around 10 to 15 minutes, which to me seems like an awfully long time to be looking through a small garbage bag full of clothes. Especially to be looking in this bag of clothing and then not looking up once. Because Shawn claims that after this 10 to 15 minutes is when he looked up and realized that Autumn was nowhere to be found. She was no longer with him. She had seemingly vanished. This area here by the park is the last time that Shawn claims to have seen Autumn, which is just before the houses he stopped at to look at jeans. Now, at the time that Autumn disappeared, an ASL walk was happening at Sunnydale Park, so there was quite a few people around, as Shawn stated himself, him and Autumn had discussed. To this day, police have asked if anyone was at that park and participated in that ASL walk, or maybe you were just there that day, if you could provide them with any video or photos that you may have taken that day, because who knows, it may show them in the background. But it's due to this amount of people that were around at the park that Shawn claims he couldn't locate Autumn. So let's talk about Autumn last being seen outside of Sunnydale Park on the sidewalk right before the houses start.
Didn't see her anywhere in sight, so I thought, well, maybe I said she must have went with like whoever she's been talking to for the past 2 hours.
Do you think she like walked past you, like kept going, or do you think
No,
she went
there's no way. There's no
Do
way.
you think she turned right and went downtown?
You think she went
No,
to Cundall's?
because I was going downtown. I think she either went into Sunnydale Park or she went the other way towards
Cundall's?
Cundall's. Can you not track her phone company? Like,
No,
it's
because her phone's been off.
been off. So
They can't do anything. The last location they pinged it at was your house, so that's why you're the last person that has spoken with her and everything. So
And
that's
saw
why
her.
we're not.
According to Shawn, he thought that Autumn had just wandered off, walked away from him. However, I do find that a bit strange because according to him, their whole plan was that they were going to go downtown and watch the air show. So if you have plans with this person to go downtown with them and you were with them, why would you just walk away out of nowhere? And it also doesn't make sense to me that she would just keep walking past him as he's looking at jeans, especially since she was behind him. So she would have seen him looking at the jeans and then most likely just stopped and, looked with him or played on her phone or whatever. Another question I'd have would be if Shawn thought she might have gotten lost in the crowd or such, why didn't he just text or call her to be like, hey, where are you? You'd think if you're with a friend that, you lost track of, you got separated from, you would try to contact them so that you could find out where each other is and meet back up, especially if you have plans and you were just with them. Well, it would turn out that Shawn's cell phone battery was conveniently dead that morning, meaning not only did he have no way to contact Autumn, but police also have no way to track his whereabouts that morning. They're not able to ping a phone because he didn't have either his phone on him or it was dead. So, what did Shawn do when he realized that Autumn was missing? Well, here is where Shawn's multiple stories would continue. In some recordings of Shawn, he would say that he waited about 15 minutes for Autumn and then he went downtown. But he doesn't remember why he went downtown, but that he only went downtown for an hour before returning home. In police records, it's noted that Shawn claimed to have waited 30 minutes for Autumn, even though he had also stated that he thought she had continued downtown to the air show without him. So why would you stand around waiting for 30 minutes? Well, in this version of events, after waiting 30 minutes for her, he walked southbound on Sunnydale Road and stopped at a friend's house located on Sunnydale Road. However, this friend wasn't home. So again, there was no one to corroborate his alibi. He then allegedly continued southbound on Ross Street and then Maple Avenue. From there, he believes he boarded an Edge Hill Drive bus and traveled to his friend's house in the Edge Hill Drive area, meaning that he went in the opposite direction of downtown, in the opposite direction that he thought Autumn had went. If he had just thought that maybe she had ditched him and wasn't interested in hanging out with him anymore, why wouldn't he just say that? Why is he making it seem like he was trying to wait for her, being a good guy, but then he has all these different stories? It's very strange. He just seemingly can't remember anything that happened that morning. The morning that Autumn went missing. It's very convenient to me. However, after maybe taking the bus to the other side of town, that friend also wasn't home. So then he decided to also go back home, which he would return home around 1 p.m. and he noticed his mother Marion was home. So I'm assuming that his mother corroborated that he returned home at that point in time. Police would later attempt to confirm Shawn's stories by going to these multiple friends' homes who he claimed to have shown up at. But again, these friends weren't home at the time that he allegedly went there, so no alibi could be established. Police would also canvass the area of Sunnydale Drive where Shawn claimed that he had stopped to look at this bag of jeans, and it would turn out that the homeowners did end up putting those jeans out that day. They put them out there so that, people could just take them. The homeowner would also note that when they returned home at the end of the day, the jeans were all gone. Can be corroborated in some way by these homeowners, but there is no security footage or surveillance footage at all that was actually captured of this event happening. But so we don't actually truly know if it did happen the way that Shawn claims. All we do know is that he may have seen a bag of jeans there, and the homeowners did put the bag of jeans out that morning and they were gone when they left, but Shawn also doesn't say that he took jeans, so it's interesting, to say the least. Police would also go ahead and request footage from Barrie Transit. However, Police took too long to try to obtain this footage, so all of it was overwritten by the time that they tried to get it. So again, they were unable to confirm Shawn's stories about taking the buses that day. And in my opinion, that is a big fault of the Barrie Police that they took so long. We will learn they would take a long, long time to actually take this case seriously. And then we have issues like this where footage gets overwritten that we could have gotten to confirm or deny Shawn's story. Now, as we know, Lily would eventually get worried and she would report Autumn missing on June 12th. However, it would take days for police to officially begin searching for her. And this initially was because they didn't have any leads to go off of. All Lily knew at this point in time was that Autumn had told her that she was going to go hang out with a friend and she never came home. She didn't know the name of this friend. She didn't know where this friend lived or where they were heading. Police did, however, do some minor attempts at trying to find Autumn on June 12th, the day she was missing. That day, the responding officer attempted to call Autumn's phone and it went straight to voicemail. She then spoke with her staff sergeant about getting a ping on Autumn's phone. However, the sergeant didn't feel like they had the authority to do so. And this was because Autumn hadn't mentioned wanting to unalive herself and there was no medical emergency. And from the beginning, Lily was very upfront with authorities. And it really felt like, since Autumn was an adult with a drinking problem, authorities weren't taking Autumn being missing very seriously. Family got this impression from police that they just felt like Autumn most likely went on a bender and that she'd eventually turn up, or that she maybe ran away for some reason, which to family, that was extremely worrying because that was not like Autumn. This impression that the responding officers at the time gave to the family is also something that's very reminiscent of other cases we've talked about where adults especially aren't taken seriously when they go missing. The family isn't taken seriously. And we've also recently talked about cases of children that go missing where the authorities look at it as just, the kid probably ran away and they'll eventually come back home. Normally a bit worse when it comes to adults because adults have the right to leave and go missing if they want to. However, I truly believe that if a family is worried, police should take that seriously because the first few days that someone is missing, the first few hours are the most crucial. And again, police losing stuff like that surveillance footage could have been prevented if the case had been looked at seriously from the start. However, it would take weeks for Autumn's case to be looked at seriously. Lily also tried to give the authorities Autumn's laptop so that they could look for clues. However, a direct quote from documents states, "At the time, the detectives believed that there was no criminal aspect to the investigation, and a judicially granted search of the laptop would not be warranted." End quote. From further notes indicated in a formal complaint letter later submitted to police by the family, it would show that what is called a search urgency evaluation form would be submitted, which would determine if a search master needed to be called in, which is an officer trained in and to oversee missing persons ground searches. However, the score given would later be evaluated as non-urgent. The responding officer would, however, also call the local hospital to see if Autumn was there and submitted the information on Autumn's disappearance into a database that police can access. However, Autumn was nowhere to be found still, and this non-urgency would continue. However, Autumn's family was urgently trying to provide police with any information that they could. Lily was able to tell police that Autumn had been dating a guy named Brandon for about 4 months who lived in the city of Sarnia, which was about a 3.5-hour drive away from Barrie. From time to time, Autumn would help Brandon with money and a place to stay. But their relationship, according to family, was a toxic one, describing at one point how Brandon had requested money from Autumn. And when she had asked what it would be for, he said, quote, "How dare you ask me?" End quote. The family felt that Brandon truly didn't love Autumn, and he had also cheated on her twice in their very short relationship. Family would also later discover a photo of Autumn that she had saved that indicated he had allegedly been physically abusive to her. This was something that she had kept hidden from the family and was yet another shock to them. Autumn also didn't get along with Brandon's mother, Lisa. Her and Lisa would also argue, and she seemed to be very strangely involved in their relationship. According to information gathered, Lisa had allegedly created fake Facebook accounts for her son that she would use. At one point, Brandon even lived with Autumn at Lily's house for about a month before he cheated on her again, which is why around the time that she disappeared, Autumn was not in the greatest headspace. She was really upset. Her boyfriend had just cheated on her. It's definitely a triggering factor, especially to someone who is struggling with addiction. It's noted that Brandon left on June 7th and he had plans on returning on June 10th. The same day Autumn would go missing, Brandon also spoke to Autumn on June 9th, where he had messaged her telling her not to go out and do anything stupid. He then also messaged her around 4:30 a.m. saying that he was going to send her money. Then on June 10th, he messaged Autumn again asking her where she was. It wouldn't be until 2 days after Autumn was reported missing on June 14th that Barrie Police would contact Sarnia Police asking them to go to Brandon's address to speak to him regarding Autumn's disappearance. But it wouldn't be until June 16th that Brandon would speak to police. It's noted in documents that Brandon was not seen in Autumn's home, and he claimed to have not seen her since June 7th while he was in Barrie. It would also be on the 16th that the family decided to take it upon themselves to do some digging, since police were working too slowly for them. Lily realized Autumn's laptop was unlocked and went on her Facebook Messenger, where she found the messages with Taylor. She also found the messages with Kyle after requesting phone records. Lily would reach out to Kyle, who would admit that yes, he was texting with Autumn on the 9th and the 10th, but claim Autumn said that she was planning on going to Toronto, but then instead she went to a bar that evening, which does line up with what happened. Remember, this is the same Kyle she was texting who lived in Mississauga, who was drinking that evening, so he couldn't come and get her. Now, police would eventually also speak to Kyle. He claimed that Autumn and him had been friends with benefits off and on for a couple of years, but that she had recently started talking to him about wanting to make money in Toronto. Keep in mind, we are continuously going off the words of others. The following day, Kimberly arrived in Barrie. Family would ask Lily to get a new SIM card so a reset code could be sent to access Autumn's Snapchat. Thankfully, Autumn was part of Lily's phone plan, so she was able to call their phone provider and get a new SIM card for Autumn's phone plan. They put that SIM card into a phone so that they were able to use her phone number to reset the passwords on Autumn's accounts, and that's how they were able to gain access to her social medias. June 19th, which was 9 days after Autumn had went missing, her family was still investigating her disappearance on their own. Lily contacted police to inform them that she was able to access Autumn's Facebook Messenger as well as her Snapchat. They were literally being their own detectives. I think it's very important to note that if it wasn't for Autumn saving those pictures and videos, as well as the snap map location, and sending the Taylor the name of Shawn's street, her family may have never found out where she was the night before she disappeared. So Autumn's family now had a street name, the face of a man, as well as a location on a map. This all was narrowing things down to try to figure out who Autumn was last with. Who was that friend? After figuring out this information, Autumn's family began going door to door on Scott Crescent. They also called 911 and told them that they found the street. However, according to family, police didn't really seem to care much. It really shocks me, and it makes me wonder that if the family hadn't gone to the lengths that they did to try to find her, and what happened to her, if we would even have the amount of information that we have now. Would police have ever been able to figure out that Autumn was with Shawn that day? Which is very spooky, because it didn't seem like Shawn was just going to come forward. Now, it's noted that police would later claim that they did interview Shawn, however, he claimed he hadn't been with Autumn, so they left. It also seems like they never informed the family of this interaction until after the fact. June 20th is when police would begin canvassing the city of Barrie looking for Autumn. They searched the areas near City Hall, Collier Street, the Barrie Public Library, Mulcaster Street, Dunlop Street, the Bisbee Center, and Clapperton Street, but no signs of Autumn were found. The Human Trafficking Unit also ran a search of their databases, using pictures of Autumn and her phone number, but no matches came up for that as well. They'd also run these searches multiple other times throughout the following weeks, but also gained no results. At some point, the family would hire their own private investigator because, as you can see, police were moving slowly. And this PI would end up finding a post on an escort page called Escort Alligator. And the woman in this post possibly looked like Autumn. This address was located in Toronto, so Barrie Police would end up contacting the Toronto Police Services and asked an officer to go to the address to see if Autumn was there. However, this was yet again another dead end. Lily would once again contact police with more information she had found on Snapchat regarding Autumn being in the area of Scott Crescent and Shelley Lane. So police once again went to speak with Shawn, this time searching the home. Autumn's sister Lily, her cousin Kimberly, as well as her uncle were all present during this interaction, and they actually filmed it. This is when Shawn would first talk about finding that bag of jeans and losing track of Autumn.
Where's my sister?
I have no idea.
Just stay on the road first.
I have no idea. I was with her last Friday, Friday, the weekend of the air show, and then she left.
What's your name?
Sean Pawis.
Who's here?
Me and my mom.
Mind if we check?
Yeah, go ahead. problem. Yeah, no, I've tried to contact her ever since Saturday morning. We were walking downtown, and we stopped at Sunnydale. We were going down the hill, and I stopped at it was the weekend when they were giving away like all this people were putting stuff to the curb, and I stopped and I was looking at clothes. And I picked up clothes, and she was behind me like maybe 15, 20 feet.
That's him.
This is the house.
Yeah.
There's a window. There's a mirror inside the house.
And,
Exact same house.
Yeah.
I was there looking at clothes for about 10 minutes, and then I looked up and I noticed that she wasn't following, so I walked back, and she's gone.
She came here though.
Yeah, she was here.
So why did you tell the police she wasn't here when they came yesterday? You told her
she wasn't here yesterday.
But you didn't. You said you never seen her.
No, I said I haven't seen her since the following Friday.
Okay, so she was here.
Yeah, she was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll deal with this.
Yeah.
Just give us a minute.
Okay. Okay.
Family was also concerned because a large bag of dirt and a gas canister were found in the driveway. However, we have no information that this was related to Autumn's disappearance, but it is something very concerning to see when your loved one is missing.
That's the fucking mirror, man. That's the fucking couch. That's the fucking place. That's the door in the back. That's the fucking place right there. So we need camera footage of the look across the street. I think there was one on here, so we can see if she left or not.
And he has the door at the back.
That's it. This is the place I saw inside. What is this?
I don't know.
Why does he have soil all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Look, there's something in the back there. There's sheets back here. Don't look at anything in case it's evidence, Uncle. Oh my God. Look at, like, why does he have soil all of a sudden? Why is there something like there? Like covered in something. Look at those sheets in the garbage there. Don't touch anything. This is like, she could be back here. There's fire. Look, there's a gas can.
Yeah. And even somebody made fire back there.
Yeah. There's a fire back there. Fire.
Yeah.
The sergeant.
He just said he just saw her. Hi.
This is the place.
This is the place.
You just saw her?
No,
No.
We didn't see her, but this is the
We see
place.
the guy.
This is the place inside of the house. It's that same house.
Oh yeah?
They're in there
The
right now.
mirrors
with
in the
him.
background, everything.
Oh, yeah, the officers are in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go. Okay. Get this guy. That's him. That's him.
Like, I smell something.
I know, I saw something gross.
What if she's fucking in there?
Shawn would also tell police and Autumn's family that she had mentioned wanting to go to Toronto Street in downtown Barrie to engage in escorting. And like the good guy that Shawn is, he claims that he warned Autumn of the dangers of doing so, but said that she wasn't concerned about the risks.
What did she say? She was
Let's
escorting?
go inside
No,
first and talk
Was
about
she
the Slayer.
escorting?
What she said was she wanted to go down to Toronto Street and make money. She wanted to work. Yeah, I didn't want to
Thank
tell.
you, thank you.
I told the police that. I didn't want to have to tell you guys that just because, like, you're her family and it's like.
Yeah, because she was here that night. We saw the picture on Snapchat.
Because she was talking about this at my house and she was determined to go downtown, right? Like she was either going to go home or she was going to go there. And I said to her, I said, listen, I said, I know a lot of girls, like a lot of girls I know ended up into drugs and they ended up working on the street. I said, it's not a safe place to do.
Now, in this statement, Shawn actually claims to have continued going downtown to watch the air show after he lost Autumn. However, when he returned home, he tried to message her, but her phone appeared to be dead. So yet again, another instance where Shawn's story changed. Police would search Shawn's home with the consent of his mother who owns the home, although they didn't truly do a thorough search. It wasn't like they were going in there with a fine-toothed comb looking for blood spatter or anything like that. However, I will say we do have video footage of her walking away from his home, so I'm not as surprised that there wasn't any foul play found. But due to them not finding anything inside Shawn's home or in his backyard, they had to tell the family that they had no grounds to detain him. And the family wasn't having it because the police had simply just walked through the home and walked through the backyard. They didn't check the garbage cans outside, or question the bag of dirt in the driveway, or the gas canister, or what looked like the remnants of a fire in the backyard. And the family called police out on all of this while standing in front of Shawn's home. However, authorities simply said they cared about finding Autumn and they were doing their job.
So we searched the house. Sorry?
He was the last person to see witness.
I understand, but
After 9:30, her phone
we
went
have
dead.
no grounds to, okay? Right? So
Like you can't, you're not, like he's a person of interest though. Okay, so.
he was the last person, but we have no grounds to. So obviously,
So just a question, did you guys came here yesterday, right?
yes.
And what did he say yesterday? Did he say he saw her?
I don't know
So I had the conversation with the officers that attended.
Okay.
I called them, they're off duty right now, but I called them on the way here, and they said he's similar to what he was. It was the last time I saw him on the 10th. So that's basically it. So what we have here is more information we got to give to our investigators that are going to follow this up.
You're going to believe it.
Pardon me?
You're believing
So you
that.
guys, do you guys,
I know.
do you really believe that he's telling the
Bev,
truth?
Bev, this is what told us. That's all I'm saying. All this
Okay, but
information has
I
to
know what
be
he told you.
analyzed
Yeah.
by our investigators. We're the frontline guys that are coming here and getting this.
Yeah.
We're working with you, okay? I want to be clear about that. Okay, I want to find you too.
Okay.
All right? So
Okay.
this is the information we have. We will give this to the investigators.
Okay.
Okay, and they're going to continue the investigation.
At some point, the family also got to speak with Shawn, and it also seems like they spoke to him on multiple occasions. And these conversations were always recorded. During these conversations, Shawn would go over his timeline with the family. And what really strikes me is that in Shawn's initial stories, he never talks about walking down Shelley Lane with those skis. He never talks about ditching them in the woods. He never mentions about going to buy drugs or then getting confused about which direction he went. He always skipped over leaving his home and then walking past Sunnydale Park. He talks about the ALS walk and how crowded it was, so he lost Autumn, because he walked so fast and then got distracted by jeans. Why would he leave all of those details out?
Listen, I don't know what you think is going on here, but there's nothing
We
more.
think you know more than what you're
No,
telling
there's
us.
not. No, I don't.
Because we talked to a lot
Where
of
did you
people
go from here?
downtown.
Where did I go from
From
here?
Ann.
Yeah, like
We went down Sunnydale. Did you not check those houses across? Why don't you trying to get surveillance from there to see which direction she went?
yeah. We
Because-
just want to know like what time you came home again.
And it was like between, I don't know, like 11:30 to 1, like sometime in between that area.
Where did you go?
And I already told you to the house that we separated right before the stop signs
Where
at
were you
Sunnydale.
between 10:30 and like the time you got home?
10:30 and the time I got home. We
Yeah.
walked down there, and that's where we separated. Was at Sunnydale and Letitia.
And then you came home after that.
The door, right on the front door, it says security cameras in use.
So you guys left at 10. What happened after 10? Like where did you guys go first?
We went down towards downtown, but we were heading down Sunnydale towards Letitia. We passed the park, and just before the four-way stop, that's where we separated. Because she was on her phone and she was stopped, and she
Because
got
you guys
texted.
went somewhere first, and then you started coming back towards your house on Sunnydale, right? So where did you guys go first?
We didn't go anywhere first. The only place we went was down that way. We didn't stop anywhere.
Because the way you brought us, it's like opposite way of the way you said you were walking home, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, when I'm coming home from the bar, it's a little different, right?
So you guys had to been coming from that area, not your house, going there. You know what I'm saying?
We went to the bar. We came back. This was in the morning.
No, yeah, I'm talking about morning time.
Yeah, morning time. Well, so if maybe I went a different way. What's that matter? Like, there's tons of ways to
Yeah,
go to
but
downtown.
you showed us only one way, and you said this is the way we walked.
Yeah, that's the
right?
way we walked. Yeah, that's the way we walked when we were coming that morning, because we passed Sunnydale Park going towards downtown. There was only one way to go once you're on Sunnydale if you're taking that way downtown.
Yeah.
Why would he leave them out until he's forced to talk about it when he's called out on his story? Could it just be that he didn't want to snitch on going to buy drugs from his drug dealer? Or could there be another reason for his lapse in detail? His timeline is also just very off in general because he claims they were at the Kensington bar around 12 p.m. to 1 a.m. but they would have already been back at his house by that time. Shawn would also admit that he lost his cell phone about a day or two after Autumn disappeared, so he had to go get a new phone. He claims he was riding his bike down Livingston with his phone in his pocket and then realized all of a sudden that it wasn't there. He later got a new SIM card and his buddy gave him a new phone to put it in, but it was missing the piece that the SIM card sits in, so he couldn't use it. Just very convenient to lose your phone, that same very phone that was allegedly dead and not charged, when the girl that you're with goes missing. But despite all of this information, all of the strange changing stories and the information that we've just talked about, I'm sure there's tons more we don't know, police claim that Shawn is a good guy. And we have heard that before from authorities in cases where the individual definitely turned out to not be. So that is quite concerning to me. And it truly makes me wonder why they think he's a good guy. Why are they just writing him off, considering the circumstances? Why are they ignoring all these red flags? June 21st, Autumn's case would be transferred to the Major Crimes Homicide Unit. Toronto Police would contact Barrie Police and confirm that Autumn hadn't been at the address from the escort website. That day, the Greenhaven Women's Shelter in the city of Aurelia, which is a half an hour away, was searched after a false sighting of Autumn was reported in the city. Autumn was not at that shelter either. At 7 p.m. that day, authorities went to Taylor's home to question him about Autumn's disappearance. In this interaction, they spoke in his driveway. The report states, quote, Taylor advised the following details regarding himself with Autumn. On the 9th of June, 2023, he advised that they were planning to meet up at a bar in Barrie, but she was out with someone else, and plans did not follow through, and they never ended up meeting. Taylor advised that they spoke through Facebook Messenger, as well as a messenger app, and if there was a call placed, she would have called through that app. End quote. On June 22nd, police discovered that Autumn had actually placed a phone call to Taylor at 12:46 p.m. on June 10th. But again, Taylor didn't answer. This would be the last time that Autumn would ever use her phone again. Which again is super odd because Lily had tried to message her back 3 minutes after she sent her message, yet it never went through. But then how was Autumn still using her phone after that? It's very, very strange. This is when authorities would finally attempt to locate Autumn's phone. However, it had since been turned off and her provider was unable to locate it, but they did confirm it had not been active since June 10th. Police also submitted a request against Autumn's health card to see if she had used that somewhere. However, it came back she had not. Financial banking requests were sent. And again, it would come back that Autumn had not accessed her bank account since 3:25 p.m. on June 9th. All very bad signs. Police would contact the city of Toronto to see if Autumn was present at any of the shelters. Flyers would also be put up across Toronto, those same flyers that I would see that led me to Autumn's case. But in the end, Autumn was not found at any of those shelters. Both the Toronto and York Police's human trafficking units were informed of Autumn's disappearance and provided with a photo. However, they had not had contact with her either. Police would once again go to Taylor's home to speak to him. However, this time he wasn't home, and his mother told them that he was at work. But she didn't know the name of the company that he worked for, just that it was in Toronto and it was a concrete pad forming business. So police left her information for him to contact them. This is when it finally felt like things were happening in the case. Like police were finally starting to take Autumn's disappearance seriously. They combed the streets near Shelley Lane for security cameras and conducted a group search with canines from Sunnydale Park to Highway 400. But keep in mind, this was nearly 2 weeks after Autumn had went missing in a very heavily populated area. It really makes me wonder if they had taken those canines out there the day she disappeared, if they would have been able to track somewhere. By the 23rd, Lily and Kimberly went to Barrie's police headquarters to once again try to hand over Autumn's laptop, and this time, the authorities finally would take it. They would both also be formally interviewed by police. Lily would inform the officers that Autumn had a drinking problem that she'd struggled with for years now, and had walked off with strangers who provided her alcohol, not returning home for days. But this time something was different. Autumn had never lost all communication. 16 days after Autumn went missing on June 26th, her case was finally submitted to the RCMP and was added to the National Missing Persons website. During the weeks after Autumn went missing, there were also a lot of sightings that were reported. However, all of them turned out to be dead ends. At one point, the family was misled into thinking that Autumn was in a shelter in downtown Toronto. Another sighting was of Autumn allegedly walking on the Barrie North Shore Trail. Multiple pawn shops would be canvassed. Police would then obtain security footage from a Circle K on Hearst Drive because it had a 180-degree camera, but no one matching Autumn was found in the footage, and no one reported seeing Autumn in that area. Then, on June 30th, officers once again would speak to Taylor. And this time, Taylor mentioned that he had been waiting to meet up with Autumn that day, and that he had been sitting waiting in his car, which was parked at the Canadian Wholesale Club grocery store for several hours that day. This grocery store turned out to be just down the street from where Autumn lived. And if you remember, they spoke in text messages about meeting up in his car. Now, police would eventually collect video footage that showed Taylor's car parked in the parking lot from 12:44 p.m. to 5:39 p.m. And what's weird to me is that Autumn last used her phone to call Taylor at 12:46 p.m. So first off, why sit in your car for 5 hours when you have a home that you could wait at to meet up with someone? But then also, why not answer the call when the person calls you that you're supposed to be meeting up with? It's weird. It's very, very strange. You'd think you would have called her back or went to get her, but no, his car just sits there for 5 hours. Unless there is some kind of discrepancy in the police records. Now, funny enough, it would turn out that according to Kimberly, the police records were incorrect. Authorities would later say that they made a mistake in their report, and it was actually 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. that Taylor's car was parked in that parking lot. It was also noted that no one got in or out of the vehicle as per surveillance footage. Taylor also claimed he fell asleep while waiting for Autumn, yet was ready and waiting for her at that parking lot since 8:30 a.m. And clearly, police didn't see Autumn walking to his vehicle or him leaving the vehicle and walking somewhere. You'd think that would have been noted. It's also noted that they looked for footage in the area of Hearst Drive and Bruce Crescent that day. So what is going on with this part of the information we know? A week later, on July 7th, authorities would contact the Thunder Bay Police Department because they wanted to speak to Matt, which was yet another guy that Autumn was speaking to on the day of her disappearance. So let's talk about Facebook friend Matt for a moment. According to Matt, who lives 13 hours away in Thunder Bay, he met Autumn when she lived in Long Lac, which was only about 3.5 hours from him at the time. Matt told police that they were just social media friends who hadn't seen each other in 10 years, and he didn't know where Autumn was. Family had discovered that Matt and Autumn had started speaking to each other on Facebook around 2020, and they spoke for a few months. Communication had stopped for a while, and then it picked back up in April of 2023. Family says that in these messages, Matt would flirt with Autumn over Facebook Messenger, as if he really liked her and he seemed to be caring towards her. At one point, Matt informed Autumn that her boyfriend Brandon was cheating on her with a girl that he was actually seeing, and that Brandon was trying to get her to go to Toronto. It's alleged that Autumn would confide in Matt about her fights with Brandon, and occasionally asked Matt for money to borrow. According to the conversation that Matt and Autumn had on June 9th, he was allegedly offering to take care of her and show her the streets. He also told her that he thought they'd make a lot of money, which Autumn simply replied, "I'll think about it." What does this all mean? Well, Matt Loubier here has multiple charges, including in 2017 when he was arrested alongside a Mariah Sackany in Thunder Bay after police were called to a residence following drug complaints. Officers located an unsafely stored semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle with illegal modifications for concealment, and officers also located a small amount of crack cocaine. Both were arrested with various firearm charges, breach of probation, and possession of cocaine. On top of that, Matt frequently posted with bands of money and flexing designer clothing on his social media. Matt was also allegedly in Toronto during the time period Autumn went missing. So when you add the previous charges, the lifestyle he was living, and then also the fact that he was offering to show Autumn how to work the streets, it's yet again another combination that leaves you questioning things. And if we know anything, it was that Autumn was not surrounding herself with the best individuals. That much is clear. On July 10th, authorities would search the classic car wash that was nearby where Autumn lived with Lily, because she was known to drink behind the building since Lily didn't allow alcohol in her home. A homeless encampment was also searched along Ann Street. Nothing was found at either location. But things did eventually get interesting, because Autumn's phone provider eventually provided police with her last phone ping. And it wasn't at Sunnydale Park, where Shawn claimed to have last seen Autumn. Her phone was actually marked to have last pinged at 3:36 a.m. on June 10th at 2 Kozlov Street. Now, I am curious if this is an error in the police documents or if it's an error on the phone provider's part, because 3:36 a.m. just doesn't make sense to be the last ping. because Autumn would have been at Shawn's house at that point. That's when she was texting Taylor, not a 30-minute walk away at an apartment building, which is what 2 Kozlov Street is. But what is interesting is that if you look on Google Maps, this building is right off Cundall's Road, which is the same area that Shawn claimed he would meet up with his drug dealer. I also really question the time for this phone ping because she also placed multiple other text messages. She tried calling her sister. It does make me wonder if her phone was on airplane, but she was using Wi-Fi this whole time. If it wouldn't ping, let me know down below if you know that. That's something I'm not sure about because she seemingly was using Facebook Messenger to contact everyone. So would her phone ping in other places if she was only using Messenger? Makes me wonder if she was up there at that location at 2 Kozlov, she put her phone on airplane possibly, and afterwards was using, Facebook Messenger. But then again, she was messaging Taylor all night. So I don't know. It's very confusing. It does make me question, could Autumn have had a second phone? Could someone have gave her a phone to use? Because she does have a phone in her hand in the last video footage we have of her. She was messaging Taylor and calling Taylor after she called or texted Lily, but then Lily couldn't contact her back. It's very confusing. And it's also odd to me that Shawn's phone was dead during this time too. Between July 12th to 24th, some other interesting developments also happened. Now, it turns out that Autumn was speaking to yet another man on June 9th. This time, it was an inmate. Police would be contacted by a field officer that informed them that Autumn was actually in contact with 2 inmates housed in the Millhaven Institution, which is a maximum security prison 3 hours from Barrie. However, both men at the time were still incarcerated. Police requested to have contact with these 2 inmates to see if they had any information on Autumn. However, an update was never noted in the police documents. A phone number also led to a retired lawyer who worked for DeVry Smith Frank. A recording was provided to the police of their voice messaging system. However, it seemed to be a possible pocket dial. It's claimed that in the very muffled recording, you can faintly hear a man's voice, but it's undetermined what's being said. July 12th is when police would conduct a phone interview with Shawn, as well as go on that walkabout that led to a lot of very interesting information coming out about Shawn's stories. Again, a walkabout a month after the person goes missing. Then, on the 25th of July, an unknown male would enter the Barrie Native Friendship Center, would grab one of Autumn's posters and write the word deceased on it. He then placed it on the clerk's counter saying, "Tell her parents," before walking out of the building. Like, what? The poster was later seized by police and this man was later identified. However, no information has been released about this interaction, who he was, why he did that. It's just very, very strange. After these dates, another ground search was conducted by canines in Sunnydale Park with no signs of Autumn.
Well, Sarah, this area of Sunnydale Park is where police have had their command post set up for most of the day, with multiple search teams really spread out throughout this park, all with one goal: to find something that will hopefully bring Autumn home. Consoling her grandmother in a park not far from where her sister Adam Shaganash was last seen, Lily Moore spends another day waiting for answers. Today, search teams move through the entire park, shifting through bushes, looking for anything that could lead to answers. It's one of multiple searches Barrie Police has conducted.
We've done aerial searches. We've utilized canine resources to conduct ground searches of the area. With the leaves falling and whatnot, there could be something that was overlooked that may assist the investigators should anything be located.
And as the search was conducted, members of the ISN Masqua and Indigenous-led support team were also on the ground, helping a family to navigate through the pain.
To sit and breathe a little bit and to talk and to, there's a Anishinaabe humor and some laughter and that calmness that we seem to have with each other, that it resonates, and it certainly helps.
So that a grandmother, a sister, and a family can stay hopeful that while the seasons have changed, their autumn will one day be found.
Family and support, and I stay strong every day.
And there have been other previous searches of Sunnydale Park, yet to this day, Autumn has not been found. Not one sign of her phone, a piece of clothing, nothing. Not one credible sighting, not one other piece of evidence as to what happened to Autumn.
Marks 3 months since a 26-year-old Barrie woman was reported missing to police. Now the family of Autumn Shaganash is desperate for answers, saying that they feel police aren't doing as much as they could. CTV's Alessandra Carnero reports.
She is just one of those thousands of girls that go missing every year.
With her picture taped to a light post in the city's downtown, the search for Autumn Shaganash continues.
We don't want her to be one of the girls that are not found. We want to find her.
It's been 3 months since the 26-year-old disappeared from a Barrie neighborhood. She was last seen on June 9th around 9 p.m. on Burton Avenue, leaving her family desperate for answers.
It's not like Autumn to do this. Autumn would keep in touch with her grandmother, especially her sister, her mother. She's very active on social media, and nothing hasn't happened since June 9th.
Barrie Police putting investigators on the case without a lead on Shaganash in 3 months.
So this investigation does remain open and active. We have numerous investigators that are assigned to this as part of a daily occurrence, and it's something that they are actively working on. Over the time period, we have shared several photos of Autumn in hopes that one of them will jog someone's memory and they will call in with additional information for our investigators.
It hurts so much not knowing where you are. I wish you could come home to us.
7 months of agony for the family of Autumn Shaganash, last seen by loved ones in early June, leaving the family's home, then crossing Burton Avenue. When her sister couldn't reach Autumn by phone the next morning, panic set in. Her phone stopped taking calls and texts. It was traced back to Barrie's Sunnydale Park area, where Autumn was also captured on surveillance cameras around the time of the annual walk to end ALS.
This park's been searched multiple times by K9 units and search teams, and nothing.
Desperate for answers, her older sister Lily confirming to CTV News the family has used money raised through a GoFundMe account to hire a private investigator to help bring Autumn home, stressing time is slipping away.
The longer this goes on, the colder it gets. So we really want to get on top of this investigative effort and see where this investigation will lead.
Hopefully we can get more answers to things we've been wondering about that we haven't got answers to yet.
Shaganash is 27, 5'3" and 130 pounds, an Indigenous woman whom loved ones say requires medication and has struggled with her mental health and alcohol, for which her uncle says she was getting treatment. Her family has expressed fears Autumn may have been taken against her will and become a victim of human trafficking.
Well, unfortunately, this circumstance happens on a frequent basis. I mean, over 60,000 people go missing in Canada every year. We're hoping that we do find her alive and well, and at this point we can't really comment as to her well-being.
We haven't heard anything at all. It's really hard that there's really no leads.
There's somebody who may have information to where she is today. She was on the phone for 1 hour that morning, and it's just kind of absurd to me that no one knows who it was. Apparently it was an app-to-app call, so when we pulled up phone records, it was her phone number to her phone number.
So let's talk about some things that stood out to me and some theories. So obviously Shawn's ever-changing stories are a big red flag to me. Here's the thing. It's just too convenient of a story to me that you turn around for 1 second to look at some jeans and then turn back 5 to 10 minutes later and she's gone. It's like that I looked away for a second and vanished. It reminds me a lot of the Dylan Eller case from Nova Scotia, where his grandmother has a similar story where she said she turned around to clip the dog up to the leash, and when she turned back around, he was gone. As we know, Shawn wasn't actually a good friend of Autumn's. She'd known him for about a week or so. They barely knew each other. They'd only met a short time before. However, they were good enough friends that they had this alleged plan to go downtown after they hung out all night and didn't sleep to go watch the air show. Yet, that entire night, Autumn was on the phone texting multiple people to come and get her. She was making plans with other guys to go spend time with them. But not only do Shawn's ever-changing stories not make sense, that phone ping being in the same exact area where he claims his drug dealer is that they were supposed to go to, but then just didn't halfway and decided to go a different direction, but he can't remember which direction they walked, which were two very different directions. It's all very strange to me, and it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make me just sit here and go, oh, he's a great guy. So I'm going to ignore all of these red flags. And the fact that he also didn't have his phone on him that entire day, also a huge red flag. Again, he also didn't come forward when she disappeared. It took her family figuring out who he was and then going to police and having to force police to go there. Now again, could it just be he was just so out of it? He just didn't have a care in the world. Maybe it was the drugs. Maybe it was the alcohol. Or are those just excuses? But that phone ping being up in that area also really bothers me because it makes me wonder, after all these conversations we went through tonight, knowing that Autumn was trying to possibly make money that night, it makes me wonder, could they have gone to his dealer's house? Could that have been brought up? Could that dealer have made her an offer? Now keep in mind, this is just a theory. This is just my opinion. This isn't fact. But it really makes me wonder, could Shawn not be complicit? Could he have just left her there and then went about his day and he truly doesn't know what happened, but he may have some information about where she last truly was, but made up this other story so that he didn't out his guy because he didn't want to be a snitch, and he also doesn't want to be tied in all of this because the girl went missing. I think it's possible. I think it's definitely plausible. But then we also have to remember that there was a phone call placed that Autumn made while still at Shawn's home, and that person she was talking to on that phone call has never been identified. Could it have been one of the many people that she was talking to and texting in that last 24 hours or so before she disappeared, but just called them on a different app? Or could it have been someone new that she had just met? Again, she was talking to multiple people about picking her up, going to Toronto, trying to make money. There's a lot of different instances that this could go, where she could have been met by foul play or someone could have taken advantage of her. Again, she was in a very vulnerable state that night. She was not only upset, she was not on her medication, and she was under the influence. Just an awful combination for a young woman to be in, and then being surrounded by individuals who may not have her best interest. I also question Brandon. Considering there are allegations of DV, what is his alibi? Especially since there's mention of him supposedly coming back to Barrie on the 10th, the same day that Autumn disappears. But then when we really look at the full picture, I also find it very strange that Taylor was trying to pick her up all night and meet up with her, but then just didn't. It's really strange to me that the authorities have outlined in the information they've gathered that he was sitting in his car for 5 hours, yet she called him and he didn't pick up. And that was the last phone call that she placed. It makes me wonder, could she have disappeared from behind Shawn while they were in front of Sunnydale Park? Maybe someone pulled up that she'd been trying to get to pick her up all night and she just got in their car and was whisked away. Could she have wandered off? Could she have figured out that Taylor was waiting for her, so she walked off to go meet up with him? Or could it have been one of the other multiple people she was contacting? I have so many questions, and it makes me wonder, will police ever have the answers? What I truly believe, though, is that something happened to Autumn that afternoon. Something that was out of her own control. Something happened to her after she was last seen on that footage carrying those skis. And I don't believe she just ran away or disappeared on her own accord. The 2-year anniversary of Autumn's disappearance passed just last month as I'm recording this video, and her family still has 0 answers. Not one clue has come up, not one solid tip. And to that I ask, why? And I am saying this right here, right now. Do not go and harass the individuals I spoke about today, not only because they are all innocent until proven guilty. I will say there are a lot of strange inconsistencies and some points that pop up red flags or just seem very strange. But I think it paints a very good picture when we lay all of this out and sit here and look at it. Because this case is a lot more complicated than the media has ever revealed, that any of us ever knew. But also because we don't know how dangerous these individuals may be. Again, Autumn was contacting some individuals who have been arrested for some pretty serious charges. So please do not approach these people. Please do not harass them. Police have searched and gone over leads that span across Ontario. There's a lot talked about regarding this case surrounding human trafficking, but considering she went missing about 48 hours before police were even contacted, whatever happened to her, whoever was involved, they had a big lead on the authorities. And on top of that, the authorities didn't take her disappearance seriously for even longer. So they could have really taken her anywhere if that is the case. Ontario is extremely rural outside of city borders. And if foul play is involved, that is a lot of land to have to search. Autumn could have been taken anywhere in that point in time if she was trafficked. And it does seem like no one is searching that far away, which is why it's so important for us to continue to spread the word on Autumn's disappearance, because I know for a fact that there are tons of people who don't know about Autumn. And I'm always finding new people who don't know about her case. And that's really unfortunate because if we spread this case far enough, it may get to those that do have answers. It may put pressure on those who have the answers. So if you're able to also share out this video, share out Autumn's missing person flyer, share out any media you're able to regarding Autumn, please do so. Because again, we need to continue to spread this case far and wide. Since June 10th, 2023, Autumn hasn't used any of her social medias, contacted anyone, or touched her bank account. It is truly as if she's vanished. But someone out there knows something. Could it be someone that we spoke about today? Or could it be someone else? A reward of $50,000 is currently in place for information that leads to finding and bringing Autumn home. There's also been an electronic billboard campaign launched around the city of Barrie in hopes of bringing new leads. As of the second anniversary of Autumn's disappearance, her family spoke to the media.
Search for Autumn Shaganash continues. Her family continues to feel the pain of her absence.
We still haven't found her. I hope she's alive.
Autumn's family gathering at the place she went missing exactly 2 years ago, reminding the public that their help is desperately needed in the search and that they have not given up.
You know, we remain hopeful, and it's sad to be here. She should be home with us.
Surveillance footage obtained by police shows Autumn walking with a friend near Sunnydale Park on June 10, 2023 during the time of an ALS walk.
I can't imagine knowing what happened to somebody's loved one, that they see their face everywhere and just not speaking up about it. Like, how could somebody do something like that, right?
Over the course of the investigation, Autumn's family has voiced concern about her being a human trafficking victim, the family teaming up with police, private investigators, and ISN Masqua in the search.
There are still tips being received, and as soon as those tips are received, they are being investigated.
One of those tips was received last year when police say additional surveillance footage hinted at Autumn being spotted in North Bay. But when her family reviewed it, they confirmed it was not their loved one. Police say continued extensive searches and ice storm cleanup in Sunnydale Park have come up short.
So let's take one more good look at Autumn. Autumn is described as an Indigenous female, standing 5'3" tall and weighing around 130 pounds. She was last seen wearing a black hoodie, tan-colored leggings, Puma slides, and was carrying a black and tan purse.
We want to find her, and if you know anything, if you know where she is or you know anything, just anonymously tell somebody, we want her back. Just tell us somehow, help us, just give her back if you have her. If you know what happened, just tell us.
I'll be in the comment section chatting with you all about this case. What do you think happened? If you do know something, please say something. I'll have the information to contact the authorities down below. Also, please go follow Autumn's family on Facebook. I'll have their Facebook page linked down below, supporting Autumn. Please go send them love and support. They have done everything they can in these last 2 years to try to find their loved one, and I'll continue to support them on that. And as always, I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.